Muy buenos días a todos y bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Laura Alejandra Cuesta, soy la profesional de Relaciones Internacionales de la Asociación Colombiana de Universidades ASCUN. Agradecemos a todos su interés y asistencia a esta segunda sesión de este segundo ciclo que hemos organizado junto al British Consul, nuestro aliado. Y bueno, esta sesión denominada Tips para el IELTS Speaking tiene el objetivo de conocer la estructura y los contenidos del IELTS en su componente de speaking y obtener los top tips para tener el mejor desempeño el día del examen. El día de hoy nos acompaña Juan Carlos Arcila, él es consultor académico para el British Consul y bueno, será la persona, el experto que nos va a guiar durante toda la sesión de hoy. Esperamos que aprovechen mucho este espacio diseñado pues para ustedes, para presentarles toda la información relacionada a este componente de speaking del examen IELTS. Recuerden que pues tienen la posibilidad de dejar sus comentarios e inquietudes en el chat y bueno, Juan Carlos estará muy pendiente de resolver y atender cualquiera de sus comentarios. Entonces, sin más preámbulo, pues le doy la bienvenida a Juan Carlos. Bienvenido y muchas gracias por acompañarnos nuevamente en este espacio.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Laura, for this opportunity to share ideas on IELTS and to share with you that are preparing for the test. How are you today? How's life? How's everything? I think if you want, we can do this since we have just 1 hour to talk about IELTS. I would propose that if you want to participate, you can raise your hand or just type in the chat window your questions, and then as we deliver this presentation, we are going to have the opportunity to answer the questions that you may have. But I have a question for you before we start, and it is, what language would you like me to deliver this session? Do you want me to deliver it in English or in Spanish? What is your opinion? Would you please type in the chat window? Let's vote. English, Spanish, what's the language of preference for this? So we have 2 English up to this moment. Let's see more people. The rest of you, what do you think? English, Spanish, let's see, English, can't complain. One is the one says, but it was, I think, it was basically the question about how you were doing. Okay, so 3 people have participated. You have said English. Okay, perfect. So let's do it in English. Firstly, my name is Juan, as Laura said, my name is Juan Arcila. I am a consultant for the British Council. I've been working for the British Council for about 8 years now. I think perhaps more, 8 years, yes, 8 years. And I am also a language center coordinator for a university in Antioquia, which is called Universidad Católica del Norte. I am a flight dispatcher. As a matter of fact, I am here. Well, you can't see, but I am at the flight academy. Yes, so I also do like courses on aviation because that's my passion. And well, it's a pleasure for me to be here and to share with you. And today we're going to be speaking about IELTS. And since this is a conversation, I am not going to be doing a monologue. I would love you to share ideas on the topics that we're going to be covering in this session. So I am going to share with you the structure of this conversation on IELTS, especially the speaking part. Okay, so let me share with you my screen. Once you see it, please confirm. Thumbs up if you see the screen, thumbs down if you don't see the screen, or if you can't see the screen, okay? Here's what I have prepared. So please, thumbs up if you can see the presentation. Wonderful, Laura and Kevin. Thank you very much for letting me know. As I said in the beginning, we're going to be speaking about this wonderful exam, which is called IELTS in precise modes, precisely about speaking. Okay, so as I said, this is not going to be a monologue. I have a question for you. Have you taken the test before? Is this your first time? So if you have taken it, just say, I have. If you haven't taken it, just say, I haven't in the chat window. This is just for me to know. Okay, Luis has taken the exam. Laura hasn't taken the exam. Oh, Juan hasn't. And the rest, have you taken the exam? This will be your first time, Kevin. Wonderful. You have taken it 4 times, Luis. Wow. So you're an expert in the IELTS. And I would love to know too, what is it you do? What do you do? What do you study? Yes, would you please type in your occupation, or if you study, what is it you study? I would love to know. So we have, what do you do? First, Fabian says it's the first time. And the rest, what do you guys do? Are you students? Are you teachers, professors at a university? What do you do? This is just for me to more or less know how to aim or what objectives to achieve at the end of the session, because it's not the same if you're students or if you're professors. Perhaps I could share with you some ideas as to what you do to prepare other people, if you prepare other people for the test. Okay, so let's move on then. But don't, okay, oh, English teacher and works for San Buenaventura. Wonderful. San Buenaventura is my university. I graduated from San Buenaventura. Juan Esteban is a software engineer and student. Wonderful. And the rest, what do you guys do? Okay, so let's move on. Economics teacher. My goodness, Fabian, very interesting. In Tunja. Tunja is a wonderful city. I love it. I love it. I love, you won't believe this, but I love the weather of Tunja. I love it when it is cold. Yes, I prefer like cold weather. For example, when my family and I go to Coveñas or Cartagena, I'm not that happy. I prefer, for example, Tunja. I love that weather. Okay, in Bogota too. I love Bogota, but I live in Rio Negro, which is very close to Medellin, for those of you who haven't been here. Okay, so let's move on. This is what we're going to do. I have divided this conversation into 6 parts. The first part is going to be a very brief introduction to IELTS, since some of you have already taken the test. I am going to just briefly give you some statistics, basically, about IELTS, and then we're going to speak about the structure of the speaking part, for those of you who haven't taken the test before. Okay, but I guess you have prepared yourselves for the test, so you might know quite well the structure of the test. Then we're going to speak about some exam criteria. What are the criteria based on which you are going to be assessed in your speaking performance? Okay, so what we should be aiming at when we prepare ourselves or other people for the test. Then we're going to move on some tips for success in the IELTS, some tips that might not be as common as the ones that you usually are given in courses. Yes, this is like success tips, extra tips that will help you. Then we're going to move on to the 4th part of this presentation, which is what you should avoid and or things you shouldn't worry much about when taking the speaking part of the test. Next, we're going to be talking about how to think in English. And this is key. what strategies we can use to think in English. And that is why I have dedicated a special part for this strategy of learning how to think. Yes, which is going to help us both in real life. I'm sorry, I'm on to the next part. It was just the word ready, but both for the speaking part of the IELTS, but also like in your real world, when you communicate ideas, it is very important to think in English. And then at the end, I am going to share with you some material that is going to help you for in the speaking part to improve, not just for IELTS, but the name is IELTS, but I am going to share some very good material that I am sure will help you. Okay, that is the agenda for today. Do you like it? Do you have something else to add? Something that you would like to propose? If you want to open your microphone, you can open your microphone and speak. Please feel free to do that too. Do you feel like this is an agenda we could cover? Yes, let me see. Share your opinions. I'm going to see your opinion. I just saw Laura with her thumbs up. And the rest, do you think? Would you agree? Just type agree. Thank you, Luis. You agree. Very good. Okay. So very, very fast. This is, you're in agreement, Fabian. Awesome. Okay. So I have a question for you. What is, I don't have the picture, but I can show you where that is on, online. What do you think about IELTS? We have two exams that are, I'm not going to say similar, but the people take. We have TOEFL, we have IELTS. Do you know any other exam or any other international exam? Or have you taken any other exam similar to IELTS? The math, yes. Oh yes, yes. That's a good test. That's the first exam that I took when I was young. And the rest? FC, oh, FC is good. Stuff though. Oh, Laura, I would say you're still young. I don't think your me too means that you've taken the exam, I guess. Okay. Aptis, Sebastian, wonderful. Yeah. Aptis is a good exam. And especially if you want to take the IELTS, Aptis is a wonderful way of preparing yourself for this exam. And there are different exams in a sense, but Aptis is good for you to know, okay, if I take IELTS, I am going to spend some amount of money, it's worth it. Or no, I still need to prepare myself. So yeah, I think Aptis is a good choice for those people who wish to know what their level is. Any other exam that you know? No. Okay. IELTS is the most taken exam in the world. In fact, is one of the most taken exams in Colombia. I have a question for you, because as I said, this is a conversation. And the question is, you know that we have different scores in IELTS that range from 1 being the lowest score you can get, and well, but very low, and 9. It goes from 1 to 9. What's the average score for Colombians, for Colombian people? What's the average score? What do you think? Is it 4? Is it 6? 9? What's the average score? Fabian says 4.5. Luis says 6.6. Wow. Lorena, 5. And the rest? I would say that those of you who said between 5 and 6.5 are right. That's the average score Colombians get when they take IELTS. You know, it was shocking to find out. You can find this information. As I said, it's not on my presentation because that's not the focus, but this is just an introduction. I was shocked by the fact that there is only one place in the world where people get 9, and it's Malaysia. 9. For most people, the average score is 7. In Colombia, it's 6.5 or 6, but it is still the most taken exam. So here are some ideas that I have prepared for you based on IELTS. Yes, this information that I am sharing is available through IELTS.org. You just go to IELTS.org statistics and you'll find the information you need on statistics if you want to. Yes, they'll show you, for example, who gets the highest scores. Is it women or men? Or, for example, what part of the test is the best for Latin Americans? Is it speaking? Is it writing? Is it reading? Yes. So those are statistics are there available for you, but that's not our main focus. Our main focus is speaking part. I'll tell you some ideas that are important related to this introduction. Number one, I have already mentioned it. IELTS is the most favorite exam for people in the world, especially if you want to travel abroad, if you want to migrate. IELTS is the preferred test. You want to go to Canada, you need to take IELTS. You want to go to Australia, you need to take IELTS. You need to go to Europe. In most countries, they'll ask you for IELTS. Yes, that's the first reason why you should take IELTS. I'm not saying other exams are not good, but IELTS is the preferred one for migration. Second, it is accepted by more countries than any other test. Yes, and this includes universities. So it's the most accepted exam in the world in universities. Yes, and the last idea that I wanted to share with you is that IELTS, if you compare it to other exams, is graded or marked by real people. It's not a computer, right? So this makes a huge difference between your scores when it comes to, of course, marking. And it is because it is real people who take and, who create a test and who assess your performance. There are some other exams that are computer-based that are marked by computers following some variables and other lines of code. But sometimes code, even if artificial intelligence has developed or evolved the way it has, that affects the way you want to show your performance. So in IELTS organization, they're very careful as to how the process of assessment takes place, and they say the number one issue, or the key aspect in our marking system is real people, right? So this is very important for you if you're taking the test. Do you have any other idea why it is important to take IELTS, or why is it a great take? Great take for you. Any other idea? Would you like to share? Fabian has a question. Okay, Fabian, I'll tell you that in just a moment, but allow me some time and I'll answer that. Luis Enrique says most universities ask for it when studying in other countries. Yes, that's true. That's true. Most universities will ask you for IELTS. I used to live in Poland. Poland is a country, in Central Europe, close to Ukraine and Russia, and Germany too. And over there, the official language is Polish. I speak Polish, but if I wanted to go right now to Poland, they will certainly ask me for IELTS. I think a band 6 would suffice, but Yeah, they'll ask you for that. So that's true. Any other idea why take IELTS? What, for example, why are you taking IELTS? Oh, because I want to graduate, perhaps. Why are you taking IELTS? To study abroad. Wow, one. That's good. That's good. Do you know what score do they ask you for? Luis says to keep yourself a grader, right? Because you're a teacher, you're a professor at the university. So you want to know what your level of performance is, right? Yeah, 6.5 says one. Okay, yeah, okay, very good. I'm going to answer that question. So the question that correlates IELTS scores to the Common European Framework. I would say that it ranges. For example, if you get from 0 to 4, well, 0 means you're not going to get a 0 in IELTS. But let's say you get a 1. Well, that's an A1. 2, that's an A1. 3, that's an A1. 4 is an A1. Beginning to be A2. And then if you move on to the next course, for example, 6.5 would be a B1 plus. 7 would be a B2, beginning to be B2. 8 would be B2 plus, and 9 would be a C. Some people, like some universities, the thing is that with the letters A, B, and C, A1, A2, B1, B2, and C1 and C2, some universities struggle because, what's the difference between a person who is B1 and this person who is B1? It's difficult to tell. It's tough to say that, for example, I don't know if it has happened to you, especially if you're a teacher. Some person comes here and says, oh, I am a B1 in English. And then the person speaks and you hear this person still struggles, yet it's a B1. And then you hear a person with, that's more fluent, for example, and it's a B1 too. So the range for each letter of the Common European Framework is quite broad, is quite, ample, as we could use as similar expression in Spanish too. It's quite ample. Whereas if you have a score from 1 to 9, well, you have more ideas. So with that being said, I would say that 8 and 9 correspond to C. Yes. Then between 7, because you have 7.5, for example, 7.5, 6.5, then you begin to be B2, or you're B2. Then this range between 5 and 6.5 is B1, and then below that you have A2 and A1. I don't know if that answers your question, but if you go to IELTS.org, you will see the exact correlation, but they're not that exact, because that's what I'm saying, that you have a whole range of possibilities there to measure your score. But most universities, this is something that is important to know. Most universities in Europe will ask you for a 6. Sometimes they'll accept a 5. There are some places here in Colombia, especially if you want to work as a teacher, where they ask you for a 7. And 7 is pretty good. As I said, almost no one in the world has got last year 9. Almost no one. Yeah, it's just why. I think there are many factors. But let's move on to speaking, which is the most important part. Okay, speaking. So we now know why IELTS. Yes. And then you have your own reasons. But let's focus on what has brought us here, which is your tips. What can make you a successful taker or IELTS taker? Yes. Here is the main structure. I think you know the structure. It's divided. I'm speaking about the speaking part, but I'm going to say, remember that IELTS has reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And there are 2 different versions of the test. You have the academic version of the test and you have the general version of the test. I have a question about that though. My question is there any difference in the speaking part? Let's say that you're taking the academic version of the test. Is there any difference? Are they different? What do you think? Luis Enrique says there are no differences whatsoever. And the rest, what do you guys think? The kind of topics, when someone says, you know, oh, I'm taking the academic version of the test, they might ask you about physics. Whereas if you're taking the general version of the test, they might ask you about family matters. Luis Enrique says, no, Juan, you're wrong. No. The only difference is the writing part. So the question, oh, Laura, my question is, if you are taking IELTS, will I expect a different version for the speaking part, considering, for example, that I am taking the academic version and not the general version? Or to sum up, or to make it shorter, is there any difference between the speaking part in the academic version and the speaking part in the general version? Is there? Luis Enrique says the only different version of the test is the written part. And the rest, what do you guys think? You know, by the way, ASCUN has sponsored a bag of candy that you can get if you participate in this. Yeah, I don't know why. This is amazing. This is the first time that an organization such has decided to provide us with candy. And it's delicious. No, but it's virtual candy, though. That's not the problem. The difference is vocabulary. Laura says, no, the difference is vocabulary. Well, let me tell you. When it comes to differences between the academic version of the test and the general version of the test, in speaking, they're the same. There is no difference between the academic version and the general version. The differences come in reading and writing. So your answer was partially correct, Luis. In writing, it's different, and it is also different in reading. For listening and for speaking, they're the same, okay? So it's, having said that, here is the structure for the test. So you have a first part in which the examiner is going to ask you basic questions about your family, you know, hobbies, things you like, things you dislike. Now, as I mentioned this, start thinking what strategies could help you succeed in part number one. What strategies? What can make you, for example, if I speak like this and I have a very strong accent, because I come from a part of the country where people speak like this, and I really don't know if my speaking is going to be as good as you would think. What do you think? Would I have good performance? That's a question that we're going to answer. Is that good if I have that strong accent? Or considering the fact that I am Paisa, is it good for me to speak like this? Maria, pues hombre, que esto es very good. I am very happy to be here today to answer my questions about IELTS and my family. Is this good? Is it good to speak like that? Post your comments. What do you think? Let me see your comments, The accent is not taken into account during the examination. Accent does not matter. The most important is pronunciation. So what's the difference between accent and pronunciation? My goodness. Okay, we're going to see that in just a moment. Okay, so yeah. But your answer is correct. Pronunciation, or I'm going to rephrase that. Your accent is not going to affect your score. It will only affect your score if your accent affects the general idea. Like if the meaning that you want to convey is affected by the way you speak, then you have, you know, problems, but that's related to pronunciation, as you said. Okay, the second part then is they give you a topic and then you have to talk. They give you more or less 1 minute to prepare what is it you're going to say, and then you have between 1 and 2 minutes to speak. Okay, that's the second part. Right, and the fourth part is a series of follow-up questions that are related to the topic that you were given. So for example, if they give you a topic that is related to festivities in your country or national holidays in your country, then please expect in the third part some follow-up questions about the topics that you have developed in the second part. Okay, so all in all, the exam should take between 10 and 12 minutes, no more than 12 minutes. If your exam takes more than 12 minutes, speaking about the speaking part, then there is something wrong. As a matter of fact, examiners are recommended they take no more than 13 minutes. Okay, so I think I have a question. In the last part is just one question. The last part, well, it depends on your answers. It all depends on your answers. The examiner is going to take notes, or well, you know that you have two examiners, on what you said in the second part, and then the follow-up questions are going to be based on what you have answered. So it all depends on the examiner. If you are doing great, they might just ask you one question, but please expect 2 or 3 questions. 2 or 3 questions. One is rare, is rare. Yeah. 2 questions, 3, because they want to explore areas where they can see your level of performance, right? So perhaps you're doing great here, but maybe they want to see how well you perform in terms of like the more complex structures, which is some of the criteria that we're going to see in just a moment. So let's see, let's continue. So expect the speaking part to last no longer than 13 minutes. 13 is too much. 15 minutes is the maximum. More than 15 minutes is impossible in IELTS, right? Maybe other exams, but not IELTS, okay? And this is for a reason, and it is that you are under stress. And then after 15 minutes, you start to struggle. You start to struggle when you're being assessed. Okay, so next part, speaking criteria. My goodness, what are the speaking criteria? Type in your answers. What do you think? Don't cheat. Don't go to IELTS.org and find out. What do you know? Type in your ideas about the criteria. What is it the examiner is going to look in your performance, is going to try and find out? Let me see your answers. Fluency in vocabulary. Luis says fluency, coherence, pronunciation, vocabulary. And the rest? And the rest? I see 19 people connected. Are you scared? Am I speaking too fast? Please, your answers. What do you think? What are the criteria? What they want to see in your performance? The speech must sound natural. Improve with English. Let me see. Any other ideas? What do they want to see in your performance so they can give you a score? Using words that are not familiar. We're going to see that. The logical structure of ideas. I guess someone might have cheated there. The way you can make sentences. Okay, we're going to see that. There are 5 criteria that are taken into consideration. The examiner you know, the one that is taking notes, because you have an examiner that is speaking to you, but there is one taking notes. Yeah. The examiner is going to look for these 5 areas. And they are the following. Let's begin by 2. Fluency and coherence. Fluency and coherence. So if I speak like this and I have a very strong accent, even in, you know, in spite of the fact that my accent might affect at some point my overall performance, I still have some natural way of speaking. Okay, that way of speaking is not affected or has not affected my fluency. So what is fluency? It's the ability to talk at a normal pace. Yes, being able to communicate ideas in a natural way. Yes, okay, that allows me to utter a very, very coherent speech. That's fluency. Similar to Spanish, you know, fluidez gramatical, as they said, but it's not grammatical, as they said in this advertisement on, you know, a very famous institute that teaches English, and they do quite well. So fluency refers to talking at a normal pace. Yes, not making too much effort, not struggling to speak. But remember, you have levels, let's say from 4 to 9. So is it okay to make mistakes? Is it okay to pause? Well, yeah, because, well, unless you want to get 9, but most universities are going to require for a 7, or maybe the toughest university in the world is going to ask you for an 8. An 8 is very good. 6 is pretty good. So there are some criteria. Let me share with you some of those criteria, okay? Regarding fluency. Give me 1 second. I am going to stop sharing my screen. While I do that, do you guys have any questions, suggestions? Any ideas that you want to share while I find the information that I want to share with you? No? Yes? You can open your microphone and you can speak too. It would be lovely to hear a different voice than mine. Now, here I have a book that I am going to share with you. This book is it's called Success, Speaking Success in IELTS. I think that's the book. But I am going to share the link to the downloadable version. It's free of, you know, to download. And well, if you want the full copy, then you have to buy it. But this one is free for distribution. So this is, for example, what they want to see when it comes to fluency. Yes. So you have different scales. If you are aiming at level or band 6, well, you can still make some mistakes. Yes. As a matter of fact, they say there, that there is some loss of coherence. You might make some mistakes. You might stop at a moment. Yes. And you are still getting a very good result, which is band 6. Look at the difference between band 6 and band 7. In band 6, you have some loss of coherence, but then in band 7, you're not supposed to make any, you know, to lose any of your coherence when you're speaking. Yes. And also look at what makes the difference between band 6 and 7 is the usage of linking words. Yes. Although, whereas, however, on the contrary, all words as such. Yes. And then what makes the difference between band 7 and band 8 is the range of words, yes, and how coherent you are when you're speaking. And that refers to the second part of the criteria, which is coherence. So fluency and coherence are usually connected. Fluency and coherence, they're both connected when speaking about assessment criteria. That is why I have shared with you this one. I'm going to share with you my screen again and tell you about this part here. So coherence, usually fluency and coherence go together. Logical, for example, one of you, I think it was Kevin, the one who mentioned that it was the logical connection of sentences. That is what coherence refers to. So if I asked as an examiner participant, okay, would you please tell me a little bit more about what is it you do in your free time? And my student or the participant says, okay, in my free time, I normally visit my family, and then when my friends come to my house, well, there is no coherence because you're speaking about your family and then you're speaking about your friends. So please connect your ideas in a logical way. We're going to see a strategy that is going to help you with that in just a moment. Okay, so 2 assessment criteria, fluency and coherence. I guess I have a question here. What would be advisable to answer if the examiner asks for something that is not known by chance? For example, a term that is not known by coincidence, Fabian asks. Here, the suggestion is you can ask. You can say, sorry, would you repeat that word? I don't understand it. Be honest. It is very important to be honest and not to make up ideas. You don't understand and you start speaking as we Paisa people do here. Sometimes, you know, they ask you a question, you don't understand and you keep talking. No, that's not a good strategy for IELTS. So if you don't understand a word or something you don't know, you have to be honest and you can say, well, I don't know, but I am going to try and do my best and answer that question. You can say that. You can say, well, I don't know, but I'm going to try and answer. Yes. For example, would you please describe the recent, no, let me give you one. Would you please talk about your favorite, no, this one. Do you like football? Would you like to talk about that? Well, in my case, I hate football. Sorry, I am Colombian, but I don't like football. And I don't know, there's something to it. Maybe it's the culture. I don't know, I don't like it. I'm sorry. But if you like football, well, but I don't like it. You can say, okay, I am not a sportsman, but I am more prone to playing board games. So if you allow me, I am going to speak about board games. Well, that's a wonderful answer because the examiner is going to test your ability to, you know, use language in context, and you're giving a similar context. Also, here's one advice that I give my students, and it is, be honest as to what you can do with language, but you can lie. Let me give you an example. Would you please speak about festivities in Colombia? I don't know anything about festivities in Colombia. Well, I don't know much, but I remember last time when I went to a town with my family, and I was impressed by the way people celebrated the cow day. It's not true, but well, you can talk about cow days, no problem. The examiner is not going to care. Oh, really? Is there a cow day? Yeah. They celebrated in La Ceja, Antioquia. It's the cow day. It's the national day because everybody loves cows. And then you know, and then people, you know, disguise as cows. They walk around giving, you know, bucks of candy made of cow milk. And you see, you can lie in that context. You can make up your ideas. So one thing is to be honest about your ability. Well, well, I don't know much about that. True, that's true. But I can tell you, and then you can lie then. That's okay, right? Don't know if you get my idea. Let's move on to the next one, to the next set of criteria. The next set of criteria are three. The first being lexical resource. This refers to vocabulary, as most of you said, vocabulary, range of vocabulary. Yes. So what could be a good recommendation? A good recommendation would be for you to read a lot. You're taking the test in 15 days. Read and take notes. Read and take notes. Read, find interesting vocabulary, not too crazy, like too let's say unfamiliar, but something that you can control. And start taking notes. Learn how to describe your reality and use vocabulary. And I have a very good book that I'm going to share with you too, that is called Vocabulary in Use by the University of Cambridge. Perhaps you have it. If you, or for some reason you can't find it in the material that I'm going to share, just type vocabulary in use, English vocabulary in use. What is wonderful about this book is, I know I'm jumping to the last part of my presentation, but what is wonderful about this book is that it is divided into different aspects. And those aspects are, believe it or not, same aspects that are covered in the IELTS. You know why? Because it's created by the same people. The people who create the IELTS are the same who create this book. So this book is called English Vocabulary in Use, and it's divided by aspects. So for example, describing your house, describing your family, describing feelings, describing the weather, describing means of transport, you see? So by learning vocabulary, studying vocabulary, trying to name the reality that surrounds you, you're going to learn more. So lexical resource refers to the way you control vocabulary to describe your reality. Yes. Okay. The next one is grammatical accuracy, or how do you pronounce it, by the way? How do you pronounce this word? Does anyone know? Accuracy. How accurate you are in using the structures that you need for specific context. How long the sentence is. Do you use connectors? Do you articulate ideas using correct structures? Do you switch from passive voice to active voice? Do you use subjunctive? Those sorts of things are examined or assessed when you are taking the speaking part of the test. And last but not least, pronunciation. And I am not going to describe what pronunciation is, because you know what pronunciation is. It's different than accents. Yes, accent is different than pronunciation. Pronunciation refers to the way words are uttered so the other person can understand. Yes. So what is key? What do examiners look for? They want to see if you can produce words, yes, in such a way that they can understand, and that is not affected too much by L1. When I say L1 is, for example, if I said something like this, let me see. I really like to have arepa and chocolate in the morning. Well, arepa is a word that belongs to Paisa Spanish. Well, to Spanish, yeah. But arepa, the examiner is going to understand what arepa is, and you should be okay with arepa. But chocolate is affected by language one, and then you shouldn't say chocolate. You said arepa, that's okay. You can say quesito, but you need to explain what quesito is. Oh, okay. Oh, well, I like to have arepa with quesito, and quesito is a type of cheese that we have here and produce here in this part of Colombia. That's good. But chocolate, well, chocolate, you don't say chocolate. Chocolate is in Spanish. You say chocolate, right? So those sort of things are assessed in your IELTS exam. Up to this moment, we have covered the 5 criteria that are assessed by examiners when you take IELTS. The first being fluency, the second coherence, they go together. Next one is lexical resource, then grammatical accuracy, and finally pronunciation. Up to this moment, do you guys have any question? We're about to finish though. Oh my goodness, it's too short, the time. Any questions, ideas, suggestions? You there? Am I speaking alone? Any questions, ideas, suggestions? No. Everything is clear up to this moment, Juan Esteban. Thank you. And the rest? You're good? Could you repeat the name of the book about use of the vocabulary? Yes. English vocabulary in use. English vocabulary in use. You just type. You just Google English vocabulary in use PDF. You're going to find tons of information about that. I have it and I can share it. You know, I'll share with you. You found it, wonderful. And you have 3 levels: basic, intermediate, and advanced. And you have even 4, I think. Basic, pre-intermediate, no, 5. Basic, pre-intermediate, intermediate, upper intermediate, and advanced. But that's something that I'm going to tell you right away. You want to improve in the way you communicate ideas, especially vocabulary. You should focus on something called collocations. I am going to type this down. It's not in my presentation, but I have the material and I am going to populate it. I mean, I have a folder that has some material, but I am going to upload more material because I think it's good. It's called collocations. Collocation is different than vocabulary. Well, it's the same thing when we speak about like semantic things. We would say is the same. But collocations is the way you put words together so they can make sense. Let me give you an example. If you say something like this, I need you to make me a favor. I need you to make me a favor. I need you to make me a favor. I'm going to type it down. I need you to make me a favor. I'm going to type it in British English. I need you to make me a favor. Look at that expression. Question for you. Is that grammatically correct? Yes or no? Well, yes, it is grammatically correct. You have a subject, you have a verb, and you have a complement. That's it. That's correct, grammatically correct. But it's incorrect. Why? Because make and favor do not collocate. They cannot go together. Make is like oil and favor is like water. They cannot go together. So what is the best word that collocates there? I need you to do me a favor, right? So do collocates with favor. So when you study for IELTS, it's not just about vocabulary. You should also study collocations. And there is a wonderful book called English Collocations in Use. Wonderful. You should do that too. So recommendation. This is my first recommendation. Recommendation number 1, study vocabulary, but context-based and related to familiar topics. Why familiar topics? Because in IELTS, they're going to ask about that. They're going to ask about hobbies. They're going to ask about your family. They're going to ask about your feelings. So study vocabulary, that is going to help you with that. Second advice, study collocations. My advice for you is intermediate, the intermediate level, not the basic one, because most people know the intermediate one, especially because we share some like roots. We share Latin with English, and that is why some words might collocate easily. You know, for us, we can, you know, put words together in such a way that they might sound natural in English just because we share the same roots with Latin, for example. But at an intermediate level, you start seeing those differences. For example, how do you say do arrangements or make arrangements? Hacer preparativos. How do you say that in English? Do arrangements or make arrangements? Oh, we need to make arrangements, or do make. Puchation, as we say here in Antioquia. Puchation, no. Yes, you say make arrangements. You see? So that is at an intermediate level. So 2 pieces of advice up to this moment. Number 1, vocabulary. Number 2, collocations. Now let's move on to other recommendations, okay? I'm going to talk about the do's and the don'ts, what you can do and what you can't do, or what you shouldn't do. So what you should do, recommendation, what should you do or what you should do? Number 1, recommendation number 1, divide ideas into 2 or 3 parts. What do I mean by that? Let's say they ask you about, I'm going back to the national festivities in your country. Okay. If you start off speaking just like that, you might encounter some problems, and you might, you know, end up being pretty nervous, stressed, and then lose sight. What is a good recommendation? Okay, when you're preparing, they give you 1 minute, remember, to prepare. I'm speaking about part number 2, your ideas. Try and divide your ideas into 2 or 3. That gives you more control over what you are going to say. So festivities, okay, the national cow festivity. National cow festivity, that's the name. We celebrate it in La Ceja. It's a lie, but well, national festivity of cow. Okay, what? I can speak about the way people behave, the way people feel about this. That's the first. Second, the way I feel. And the last, what we do. 3 ideas, and then you have a very, 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 very high probability of having great success. Okay, so divide ideas into 2 or 3. The same goes for questions. They ask you, okay, would you please tell me about your hobbies? 2 or 3 hobbies, no more. If you just have 1 hobby, well, divide that idea of your hobby into 2 or 3 ideas. Well, playing the guitar. Well, I love playing the guitar because I love Eric Clapton, and Eric Clapton is a great guitar player, and I started playing guitar because of him. First idea. Second idea, and my family usually asks me to play the guitar when we meet. Second idea. That's it. Wonderful. You have a great answer there. 2 or 3 ideas. Second recommendation, go from general to specific. Go from general to specific. First, develop general ideas and then move on to more specific ideas that are related to that general idea. Move from general to specific. Do not describe bits of information because you can easily get lost. Start with general ideas and then narrow them down to more specific ideas. Next recommendation. Before the test, start recording your answers. Go to IELTS.org, find examples of questions they might ask you and record yourself answering them. You don't have an examiner. It is always a win-win situation because you don't have the pressure of the exam. Record your answers and then listen to what you have answered. And then, I made a mistake. Maybe the pronunciation is not good. Go to Google, Cambridge Online Dictionary, Oxford Online Dictionary, American whatever dictionary you might find there, and then find the correct pronunciation and correct yourself. There's no better teacher than you. And the last, pause to think. It's okay to pause. Maybe not while you're speaking. Okay, I'm going to speak about my family. No. Pause to think is okay. Now, here is a very good recommendation that is connected to something that I'm going to show you in the don't, but you have 12 minutes. Listen, when they ask you a question, it is very important to use phrases that can help you think. I never thought of that. But now that you mentioned, and then you start speaking, when you say, I never thought of that, but now that you mentioned, you start thinking about those ideas you want to say. But don't do this, and this is something that I'm going to do here, what you should do. Don't, and this is like, don't use fillers. Fillers. Don't use fillers. What are fillers? Yeah. Well, you know, don't. Like, oh, there are many things, you know, that's wonderful, you know. No, don't do that. Because that shows lack of control over language. Better use phrases, fixed phrases. Oh, that's a very interesting question. If I could say that, and then you could start speaking. When you do that, you have some time to think and then organize your ideas. And then you go back to your very, very important strategies, from general to specific, 2 to 3 ideas, and then the rest, okay? Now, don't memorize answers. Don't memorize answers. And that memorizes with S because it's British. Yeah. Next, don't use big and unfamiliar words. Don't know. I can't think of words. I would love to talk about maximization. Oh, well, no, you don't have to say that. Don't use words you don't control. You don't memorize words that are too difficult for you because you might get confused. Next. Don't worry about your accent. Your accent, your Bogotano accent is perfectly okay. My Paisa accent, although it sounds weird, sounds good. They love it. They do. Use it on your favor. Next, don't speak in a monotone. Don't do like this. Okay, so my family lives in Puerto Rico and I am here stuck in Colombia. I want to go back to my country because I miss my habichuelas. No. Use, paces, speak faster, give your emotion. Oh, I love that. That's a wonderful question you got. And then you know what? Do this. Smile. When you smile, your pronunciation is better. What do you think about last funeral? Don't smile. But for the rest of things, smile, right? But for example, okay, what do you think about poverty in your country? Well, it's a tough question to ask, and then open your mouth more, think of smiling, and then your pronunciation will be better. Okay, now, some ideas. And here's what we're going to finish. Oh, it's 11:11. Wonderful time to think about dreams. Now, one thing is to think. Learn to think in English. Oh gosh, Juan, but that's too difficult. How can I think in English? Don't worry, you're here at the right moment, and I'm going to teach you the right way to think in English. 3 steps to think in English. Prepare yourself at the vocabulary level, then at the sentence level, and finally at the narrative level. What do I mean by that? Yes, let me tell you. When you say, for example, you want to learn to think in English, first thing, this week, everything you do, name it in English for yourself. Okay, so mobile phone, as North Americans say, pen, USB pen, flash drive, useless microphone, laptop, bulletin board, bag, chair, name. You're brushing your teeth, brush, teeth, eyes, mirror, soap, shower, words. If you don't know how to name your reality, take a note this week. Okay, how do you say puerta? I forgot how you say puerta. It's such an easy word, and I forgot how to say puerta. I can't think of puerta. Okay, puerta. Google, how do you say puerta in English? Oh, okay, door. Door. Write down the words you don't know to name the reality that surrounds you. At work, in your family, when you're in Transmilenio or a metro here in Medellin. Week 1. Week 2, do the same, but at sentence level. Start describing. Okay, so now I am speaking to you. Sentence 1. This microphone is useless. Well, it's good, but I forgot the cable. This pen is black and it has a USB memory. Week 2. Okay? But you don't have to speak. Just hear. Week 2. Everything you do, name it in English. And 3rd step, at the narrative level. Tell yourself stories. This pen was given to me by the director of the Language Institute where I work. And I really love it. I like it because I can do this. I've never used this, but you see, you tell yourself a story, wonderful story. And then you can speak, you can record yourself and then correct yourself. In this way, you'll find out that in 3 weeks, you'll start thinking in English. I promise. All right, so those are the strategies that I wanted to share with you. Now there comes the time I need to share with you some material. The first material that I want to share with you is this website that is called BBC How To. For those of you who have attended previous workshops on this, this is a great website that I recommend because it allows you to explore different areas that give you like vocabulary structures. So this is the link. How to. It's an archived website, but you can use it. Let me share with you. I have it here. It's open. What you do here is you can, browse through this material. They have PDF. They have podcasts about different topics. For example, how to make suggestions, how to express a point, how to express disagreement, how to talk about the things you like, how to talk about the things you don't like, how to ask for permission, how to give directions. You see, very good. Okay, how to. That's one. Just go here and then here, and you have the topics, the subtopics, and then you can download the material. For example, how to make suggestions. Yeah, here, how to make suggestions. So you can download an MP3 file or the PDF with a script, and then you have some exercises too sometimes. Well, this is Flash Player. It's not working anymore, but with these two pieces of information, it's more than enough. Okay, how to, that's the first one. And the second thing that I am going to share with you is this book. This book is called IELTS Speaking Success, Skill Strategies and Model Answers. This is a wonderful book. It's the free version. There is an extended version for which you have to pay. I haven't paid for it. This is more than enough. And it is going to show you like different strategies, examples, sample or model answers. And I think this is going to be great. I am going to share with you also some other material, especially for writing, because, you know, speaking and writing come along. They're friends. And if you improve in your writing skills, you improve in your speaking skills. Well, that's the end of this presentation. I don't know if you guys have questions. I would love to know your feedback on this. The microphone or the chat window are all yours. So please, if you have questions, ideas, suggestions, I'm all ears. Any idea, suggestion? No, well, while you think of your ideas and you open your microphone, because I would love to hear someone speak. You know, it's wonderful to hear people. And I just hear myself is boring. Any ideas, suggestions? No? Questions about IELTS? No, well, if you don't have questions, I am going to share. Here is a link to a book, to the book that I have just shared. Students might want to see all their content in English, on the internet in English. Students might want to see. Yeah. For example, this one, this link that I have just shared. Let me share with you my screen again. Is wonderful because here I have the speaking. Speaking is the book, and I also have this English vocabulary news, and also here I have writing. In writing, you have different ideas for writing too. So I hope you like this material that I have shared with you. And well, if you don't have any questions, well, I would love you to grade from 1 to 5, being 1 the lowest score, 5 how well you felt, if you achieved your objectives when you came to this conference or talk conversation. 5 would be like, yes, I met the objectives, I learned something new. I would love to see your feedback. And if not, well, thank you very much for your attendance. I hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Adriana gave me a 0.5. Okay. Well, I hope, well, if you have some questions or ideas, I can share with you too, or more information. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And I don't know, Laura, if you want to add something else, and if not, well, this is the end of this presentation.
Gracias, Juan Carlos. No, a ti, de verdad, como siempre, muy interesante toda la información que nos compartes, los tips. Me alegra mucho que los asistentes sean tan participativos y bueno, aprovechen este espacio. Recordarles que estas sesiones pues quedan grabadas y las compartimos, o mejor, las subimos a la página web de ASCUN para que luego las consulten y también las compartan con sus conocidos y con las personas que sepan que están interesados en el examen IELTS y bueno, en fortalecer sus habilidades de speaking, por lo menos en el día de hoy. Entonces, recordarles también que la próxima semana tenemos 2 sesiones más, una charla para presentar información sobre el examen APTIS, si también quisieran conocer más del examen y bueno, otra información relacionada con eso. Y seguiremos con Juan Carlos también en otra sesión de Top Tips de Writing. Entonces, en la página web de ASCUN también encontrarán la información. Si no, también en un minuto les comparto los enlaces de esas próximas sesiones para que se registren directamente a través de Zoom. Entonces, bueno, regálenme un minuto, les comparto la información mientras de pronto quieren comentar algo en el chat y ya estaríamos dando por finalizada nuestra sesión de hoy.